It's St. Paddy's Day, where being Irish is good. Now clovers and gold will run through the hood. Leprechaun in the Hood tells the story of our little green monster chasing down an up-and-coming rapper to retrieve a magical flute. Welcome back to the Leprechaun review series, everybody, and happy St. Patrick's Day. Originally, I was trying to get this review series done and end today with a ranking, but life gets in the way. Oh well. We're going to talk about Leprechaun in the Hood. If you have not already seen my other reviews, I have reviews of the first 4 Leprechaun movies already done, completed, and ready for your viewing pleasure. So be sure to hit that subscribe button if you are not already a subscriber so you can check those out and buckle in for the ride that will inevitably be the next couple movies in this franchise. So Leprechaun in the Hood is actually the last movie in this franchise that I have ever seen. Now, there's a couple of movies before this, like Leprechaun 2 especially, that I had just had very little to no memory of. I do remember watching them as a kid, going back and forth to the video store, and Leprechaun in the Hood was the last one that I had gotten. It was actually a new release at the time. I remember walking in and seeing it. I was a fan at the time. I was like, hell yes, a new Leprechaun movie. So this is the last movie on this list that I have any previous experience with. Starting right off with the positives for Leprechaun in the Hood, I do like the change of pace that this movie brings, especially after following the one in space. Woof. But I like the fact that this kind of enters a new subgenre. There's a little bit of blaxploitation in here, and even if nothing else, just the setting itself, the type of movie that it's going for. I like the change of pace. You know, say what you will about the Leprechaun franchise, it's certainly not a prestigious horror franchise, but every single movie is different than the one previous. There's no 2 Leprechaun movies. Well, before I say that, there is a Leprechaun Back to the Hood. Up to this point, there's no 2 Leprechaun movies that are exactly the same, and this kind of continues along that trend. If you're watching this franchise, if you're binging it especially, which good luck, when you get to here, it's just another nice change of flavor for the Leprechaun franchise. And the movie does continue along with that fun tone, that fun balance that I enjoy the Leprechaun movies for. They always have a good mix of horror and comedy. This certainly leans a little bit more on the comedy. I mean, just the concept itself. I mean, the title should tell you that they're not really taking themselves too seriously when they're being that on the nose with what this movie is trying to convey. But it does strike a fun balance to where you can watch it. There is certainly some kills. There's certainly a little bit of gore in here for us slasher fans, but it's a fun slasher to where even if you're not really into the B-movie stuff, you could still have a decent enough time with it because the movie is having fun with itself. And finally, I think there's some pretty great lines. The only thing that I genuinely remembered about this movie was the line that a friend with weed is a friend indeed, but a friend with gold is the best, I'm told. For that whole gimmick of the Leprechaun constantly rhyming and having these great iconic lines for us Leprechaun fans, that is one of the best. And you have a couple of moments like that in this movie where he just riffs these little lines and it makes the movie memorable, if nothing else, for that.
Interesting blend.
Interesting bullshit. That's the bomb right there.
The bomb? Ah, the bomb.
Now moving on to the negatives, this movie really does lack the slasher element, and a big part of that is because the Leprechaun really does feel like a guest in his own movie. This movie focuses so much more on the main protagonist, about these up-and-coming rappers, these 3 friends, and them trying to get over on Ice-T, who's kind of like this music producer, this big guy in the hood, and the Leprechaun just kind of shows up once in a while to screw up the works. Like, it's not really a Leprechaun movie. It's almost like The Hood with Leprechaun, if you're going to be literal about what the story actually is. And because of that, you do lack some slasher elements. You do lack some of those, that pacing that we had in the past couple of movies, especially the 3rd film, where the kills are your money shots. That is what you are building to in the movie, and they kind of lose sight of that here. They just kind of have him inserted for a couple of witty lines, 1 or 2 kills, and really just kind of this looming presence that he's going to show up and screw up their plans. And I don't feel like that was the best way to utilize the character. The Leprechaun's funny, but he needs to kill too. One of the biggest missed opportunities in this movie is that they really did not go far enough with the slapstick. When this movie starts off, You have Ice-T and his friend that discover the Leprechaun. The Leprechaun comes to life, and Ice-T starts pulling weapons out of his afro. At first, it's like a knife and something else. Then he pulls a full-on bat out of his afro, and from that point, you're like, oh, this is going to be almost like Scary Movie. It's going to be spoofing blaxploitation. It's going to be leaning into that. They're really going to go heavy with the goofiness here. And they really don't. That's where it stops. You could have really made this a fun exploitation film that's kind of riffing on some of those tropes of not only the African American community, but blaxploitation movies, and have it be this big inside joke. And you can lack the slasher elements and still have a very entertaining, iconic movie for this franchise while doing that, but they just didn't do it. They started it and then they stopped. And after about 30, 40 minutes after that point, I'm like, are we not doing the spoof thing? Like, you started it, what the fuck? Then once you realize that that's really not going to be the focus of the movie either, so we're not really slashing, we're not really spoofing, so okay, let me just get invested in the story we have here. And you really don't have anybody to root for. You got these three characters where it starts off where they're gonna be, these positive rappers. We're gonna have this positive message. We're not gonna be talking about smacking hoes and getting drugs and shooting motherfuckers. We're gonna be talking about how to uplift yourself and how to get out of the hood. And you're like, okay, that's interesting enough. They meet Ice-T, Ice-T pisses them off, and then from that point of the movie onward, you don't even like them because they immediately turn to robbery and shooting and becoming antagonists and the antithesis of what they were trying to talk about with their positive message from the very beginning. So now you got Ice-T who's an asshole, you got the three main characters who are kind of assholes, and then you got the Leprechaun who's an asshole. So you're walking around, you're like, what the fuck? I don't know who to root for. I don't know who to follow. I don't really care who comes out on the end because you all suck. And my final negative, which is going to be something that some people might say is nitpicky because I understand you kind of need this to keep the plot of the movie going to an extent. I started to get annoyed with how many times the Leprechaun would just let people get away. Like, his mission is clear in this movie like it has been in this entire franchise. You take his gold, he comes to fuck you up. They take his flute in this one, he comes to fuck them up. And every single time he gets there, he'll take out one random ass person in a second with his magic. Like, he literally points his finger at a guy and then blows a hole right in the middle of his fucking chest just by using his finger magic. And then lets everybody else get away, like, unless he gets his physical hands on them, he can't kill them. There's even points in the movie where they have his flute and he's just like, give me my flute. Give me my flute. Give it to me now. And it's like, you've already displayed. You could just fucking do this to all of them and get your flute and the movie would be over in 15 minutes. And there were so many interactions like that to where once you introduce that element, once you display the level of power that this character has and you don't give a compelling enough reason why the protagonist characters are able to slip away out of his grasp, it just becomes weird. It's almost like when you see the scenes in movies where the villain will take something like Terminator 3 or something where it takes that and you have your person right here, all you gotta do is crush their skull, but they throw them against the wall. You're like, what the fuck, dude? You could have ended this right there. That's Leprechaun in the Hood, the whole movie.
I come from the land of the Irish Spring. Dublin's the place where I learned my thing. From the Emerald Isle to your place in the hood, I'm the man of green, come to do no good.
So overall, guys, there was a lot of potential for this one. I actually think comedy-wise, there was a lot of missed opportunity. It's still a decent enough movie. It was far and away a better watch than the fourth film, but it really just, it's another mediocre to forgettable Leprechaun film. They had opportunity and they didn't seize it, so it's just more of the same flaws that most of these films have, but in the hood. So if you're still hanging on to the Leprechaun franchise and you want to move out of space and into the hood, you can check this out and have a decent enough time with it, but do not put down a whole lot of money. Do not have very high expectations. Check it out and stream it. So what do you guys think of Leprechaun in the Hood? Are you a fan of this movie? Do you hate this film? Did you see this when it came out straight to video, excuse me, not VOD, straight to DVD like I did when I was a kid? Or did you just discover this not too long ago? Is the sequel, Leprechaun Back to the Hood, better or worse? What should I expect? Let me know down below. Thank you for watching. Please like and share this video. Hit that subscribe button so that you can check out the rest of this franchise. I also have a review coming out tomorrow, an early release review for the first episode of The Falcon and the Winter Soldier. So if you're fans of Marvel, definitely click the subscribe button to check out my thoughts on that. Thank you guys for watching as always, and remember, opinions are like assholes, but that doesn't mean that you have to be.